Hey everybody. I'm your host, John Myers, live from Stillwater, Oklahoma. We have got a great show tonight. It's John Myers. Hey everybody. Gotta have my notes. It's John Myers from the Kicker UnMasked studios. Gotta have my notes. Alternator. Hey everybody. We have fun. Hey everybody. Hit like and subscribe. Right here, right now. It's John Myers. We like to give stuff away. Alternator. Post some more pictures. We got to thank Steve and Becky live from Stillwater, Oklahoma. Don't forget Texas Roadhouse right here, right now. Hey everybody. Don't forget right here, right now. We have got a great show tonight. Hey everybody. Had a great dinner tonight. It's John Myers. Right here, right now. Had a great dinner tonight. So, hey everybody. So, housekeeping. Had a great dinner tonight. So, alternator. Housekeeping. Housekeeping. So, Tuesday night. Housekeeping. From the Kicker UnMasked studios. Housekeeping. Right here, right now. Hey everybody. So, it's John Myers. Hey everybody. It's John Myers from the Kicker UnMasked studios. Hey everybody. From the Kicker UnMasked studios. It's John Myers. Right here, right now. We have got a great show tonight. Hey everybody. We have got a great show tonight. It's John Myers. Hey everybody. Right here.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 7:30 on Tuesday. Thank you for being Unmasked with us tonight. We have a fantastic show, but of course, you knew I was going to say that. And check out this shirt. We're going to go bowling after the show. That's why I'm wearing this shirt tonight. Thank you, Mr. Jeremy Bale. So tonight in the house, of course, we got Mr. Stephen Bambrow working the magic behind the camera. We've also got JW and Ernie, of course, and your most favoritist Bill Brown the Bullfrog. All in-house working with us tonight. And of course, Jacob is my co-host tonight because Jacob is the man behind the SkillsUSA rigs that we're going to talk about tonight. And then our special guest is Mr. Chris Jack. Chris is joining us from sunny Southern California. He will not be in the studio because, why bother with technology? He can be at home tonight and be with us today. So it's fantastic to have you with us, Chris. So stick around another 30 seconds or so. We're going to get the studio set up and we'll be right back. All right, Stephen, can you lift it?
It kicked off a car audio renaissance, and upgrading your music in a vehicle was a requirement. America's music machines became living loud over your passion, your emotion, your existence. Outdoors or on the open road, your sound is Kicker.
Welcome back. You can see my lovely co-host. Whoops, I lost my arm there.
Music,
You can see my lovely co-host over here, Mr. Jacob Lucky.
What's up, guys?
And we are going to be talking about all things Skills USA tonight, and that's why we have Chris Jack with us. Real quick, Skills USA, if you're not familiar with Skills USA, Chris is going to tell us a lot more about it. But I want to let you know that we got involved with Skills USA because of Mr. Chris Jack. And also I want to call out Mr. Scott Dilbeck, because Scott has been a huge help with the Skills USA. And so we definitely want to give a shout out to Scott Dilbeck. And hopefully, Scott, you're watching with us tonight. And we're looking forward to seeing you in Atlanta. And I think it's June, if I'm not mistaken.
Sometime in the middle of the year. But,
yeah.
But Scott's got his own talk show that he does some nights, streams it, and he talks about all things 12 volt with a couple of his buddies that are also in the industry. But yeah, mainly he's been, like Aaron said, a massive help with us at Skills USA. He brought one of his personal vehicles so that the kids and students could get to see kind of what they could do if they stuck with the industry, and showed them how to recone a subwoofer, you know, and besides all that, he kind of just really facilitated a lot of things for the competition. So if you're listening, Scott, thanks. We super appreciate it.
You forgot that he irritated all of our neighbors in the booth for about 100, maybe 200 yards.
Oh yeah, that's right.
His is it Rolling Thunder? Is that the demo truck you brought?
I can't remember.
I
can't remember what it's called.
Excursion, right? And wow, very, very loud. So yeah, that was fun for the students to check out. So anyway, we're gonna bring Mr. Chris Jack in from the green room. Chris Jack, are you ready to join us?
Yeah,
Ernie,
yes, I am.
I can hear you. I can hear you, but I can't see you. Can we get Chris on the video here?
Yeah, I'm sure they're working on it.
We want to share his smile with the world.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, Chris, there you are.
There he is.
Chris, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
We have certainly talked about you on many occasions, but now you're finally with us, and it's great to have you on here tonight. So if you could, Chris, give us a little bit of your personal background before Skills USA, because you've had a long career in car audio.
Yes, in '73 I got drafted and went in the Navy and got out real quick because they signed the treaty and I got to come home. And I came home to a wife and no job.
Oh no!
So I was working fast foods, and my aunt's next door neighbor worked for a company that put in radios into factory cars. Put the antennas on the AM radios, everything. They had nothing. Fiat's, GM's, nothing had radios. So we were starting from scratch and adding. Then we got into AM FM and AM FM stereos, and then from there I went into working for OEM installations, doing Ford and Delco radios in the cars, taking out the AM radio and adding speakers and just factory 8-track tape decks.
Wow.
And then
so you were an expediter before expediting was a thing.
Yes. Yeah, we expedited, and I did that for about 10 years, the first 10 years in the industry. And then I moved to another company called NHR Auto Radio, then General Mobile Electronics, which the retail in is known as Allen Ed's Auto Sound.
Oh,
which is a very famous company out here on the West Coast, a kicker dealer and Sony dealer. And from there, they sent me, I knew nothing about retail installation. I knew how to OEM. So they sent me to a thing called RTTI at Rockford Fosgate with a gentleman named Ron Trout and Wayne Harris.
Good programs.
So I went there and learned, they taught me how to burn a pencil lead.
Wait, tell us about that. I've seen that demo.
They hooked up a positive negative of the speaker and just turned on the amp, full power, and it melted the pencil lead. It caught fire and melted it.
So they took the amplifier outputs and they wired it to a pencil, both ends sharpened. Yes. So that basically the load was just the graphite in that pencil. That was the
pencil
load.
lead. Yes, and that was it.
Impressive.
And that was the old Punch 45 amplifier. It did not shut down.
Amazing. Good demo.
Yeah. And so that was demo. So got me excited. They taught me how to design boxes from scratch, not your cheating stuff Kicker has with all the directions in the box. I had to take all the cues.
Using real math.
Using real math to cue and all those numbers they had. We had to design the perfect box.
Wow.
That wasn't perfect. They were garbage because we didn't know what we were doing. And then with Allen Ed's, and I did more from that, and then did that for about 20 years with Allen Edge, and then LA
Wow.
Unified School District approached me. A gentleman who worked for Vehicle Security Alarm Systems worked for them teaching and said, you'd be a perfect teacher.
Wow.
And I made the same as I did in the shop, but I only had to work Monday through Friday, 6 hours a day.
That's great.
So not 18-hour days in the shop, customers yelling at you. And I taught kids how to get excited about car audio. And I had, like 30, 35 students a day, 6 days a week. And then they had a thing called SkillsUSA. I knew nothing about it. And they told me I needed to join because the principal liked you in skills.
Yeah.
So the first contest I entered, there was no mobile electronics or car audio contest because
Now, let me interrupt you real quick.
Yeah.
Back then, wasn't it referred to as VICA, Vocational Industrial Clubs of America?
Yes, the first year I got in was the first year of SkillsUSA. So we had VICA jackets and Skills jacket. Yeah, it just changed over recently. And I got in, and they said I could enter something called job demonstration, which is a weird contest. You have to, it's for anybody can enter it, any job you had. And you had to talk in front of 3 judges, make eye contact, and do a skill while you talk to them.
Okay.
Which I had my guys wire relays. And
oh, nice.
Jacob, how many car stereo installers that you can know keep eye contact and wire a relay?
Probably none of us.
Yeah. So
I probably couldn't.
No, I couldn't either. They bombed out. So I got mad, and a gentleman that worked for a company, ETG Marcraft, which is Educational Technologies, and they make trainers for schools. They approached Skills because they did computer repair, and they wanted to start a mobile electronics contest.
Okay.
And at the same time, we started an internship with Best Buy.
Nice.
So the students would enter my class, complete half the class, then come to school 20 hours and work in Best Buy for 20 hours.
Wow.
And then we got the skills. Kevin and I got the contest going, and we had what you guys saw when you guys came to the contest was about 100 times better than the first year we had the contest.
You had a lot of time to grow it for sure.
Yeah. And I have to say the stuff we did was we had no money to run it. And, we did it all ourselves. So we didn't have the backing of like we do now. We'll get in. So we ran it, and we had it going for 10 years. And then 2 years ago, after COVID, there was an article written on the contest, and Aaron saw it, and Scott Dilbeck saw it. And welcome aboard, Aaron. We now have you guys, and we're going strong. And I can see, I love it. I love it, Jacob. I love it. That's speaker board.
This is Jacob's handiwork, and we're going to play with this and another display that he built when we're finished with you tonight.
Yeah, so Chris, once you get done with the interview, pop in and you'll see the fully completed amplifier display, and we'll kind of show you what they're both all about.
Okay, good. And now,
but I want to add a little.
Okay, go ahead.
I just want to add a little bit to your story because the article in CE Outlook, which is an industry online magazine, Amy Gilroy put together that article on your behalf. Is that right, Chris? Amy wrote it for you, essentially.
Yes, she wrote it for me.
And I read that article. And I sent that off to upper management here at Kicker, including Mr. Steve Irby. And I said, hey, guys, here's an opportunity. Maybe we should look into this. And Steve was excited about it immediately. Steve loves education. He loves the industry. And, of course, he loves to help people. So he said, yeah, Aaron, I want you to find out more about this and see at what level we should get involved. And so that's when I contacted you and said, hey, what can we do for you? And we sent some money, and then we also sent me out to Atlanta to hang out with you and Scott Dilbeck. And if I remember this correctly, Scott, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Scott, you were watching UnMasked when I was talking about SkillsUSA, and you said, hey, man, I want to get involved. I'm in Atlanta. And so that's when Scott contacted us, and then we put Scott in touch with you. And then we all came together in Atlanta 3 years ago now.
Yeah, and that worked out because Scott's facilitating the first year that we were in Atlanta. All the stuff that Kicker sent, Sony, anybody sent, I had sent here to California because I had nowhere to store it back there. And I had like a 2-day window to get it delivered to a warehouse in Atlanta, which cost me a fortune. So I spent $2,500 in shipping And now Scott gave us his warehouse. So everything is being shipped directly to Scott, and he's storing a bunch of stuff for us. And
yeah, so Scott is our logistics man in Atlanta.
Yeah,
it's wonderful.
Yeah. And it looks like, Aaron, last I heard, we're going to be there another 5 years.
Okay, so they're signing another contract.
Perfect.
They're in the process of doing it because nobody else is big enough.
Yeah, the convention center is incredible.
If you guys don't know, the convention center in Atlanta is absolutely massive. And SkillsUSA is not just a competition for mobile electronics, it's also a competition for like IT skills and makeup skills and cosmetics and construction and literally any trade you can think of. There is a competition for it at SkillsUSA, and it occupies a huge booth that is about half the size of our studio here, or a company meeting room, whatever you want to call it. But I mean, it is just, in the scale, I didn't quite understand the scale of the competition until I got there, and we had to walk to the booth every morning because we were on the opposite side of the convention center, and we got to walk all the way down and see everything that it has to offer. But it is a huge competition.
And ultimately, Chris, tell the audience, what is the ultimate purpose of SkillsUSA and our competition?
Getting somebody employed is a main.
That's right.
That's our main goal: is get these kids out of high school in a job.
Yes.
That is the ultimate goal. And,
and that's
right now. There's 110 contests this year. They went up 4.
Wow.
Last year there's 106. We're at 110, and it even goes from contemporary speaking and letter writing. Resumes. There's an actual contest for writing a resume.
And, that's fantastic.
And then jet mechanic down from us, and anything you could think of. And I just heard they're doing an actual wedding out of the contest this year. Somebody hired. They do wedding cakes there, and they're going to take the wedding cakes and donate them to 4 different weddings.
That's amazing.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's awesome.
In Atlanta. Wow. They offered them up after the contest. They're going to give the cakes away.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm looking at my little notes here.
We also need to mention that SkillsUSA is available to any student that is secondary or post-secondary at a technical or trade school. So right here in Stillwater, we have Meridian Technology Center, and they are part of SkillsUSA. And I don't know how many contestants they have, but it's a lot because they compete in a lot of different programs. Mm-hmm. And it's actually where we conduct the Oklahoma SkillsUSA competition. And the winners of the Oklahoma competition go on to the national competition in Atlanta. So every state in the union has its own SkillsUSA office, and then whatever schools are participating. So you might have a local, a regional, and then a state level competition before you get to go to Atlanta.
Mm-hmm. And one thing that I want to touch on while we're on the subject, in all of the visits that I've had with people in the industry, dealers, friends, any of us who have anything to do with car stereo, one of the things I hear most often is that we need more young people in the industry. Yes. We need more enthusiasts. We need more installers in the industry. For those of us that have shops, it's hard to keep good guys around that do good work installing.
Yes.
This is probably the best way to get young people involved in the industry. And if you have any sort of interest in getting more people into the industry, I implore you to get involved at the local level. It doesn't require any sort of monetary donation. You can even just show up and help judge the competition or help set things up. But just getting involved at some level is a huge help, and it's going to help the industry grow. Some states I don't think have local level competitions, but if there's a demand for it and people want to be involved with that sort of thing, you can always get something set up. But just if you have a trade school that's local to you, it won't require you to travel a whole lot. You can go and just help out with that at a local level. Or, if you want to go to the next step, you can come down to Atlanta with Scott, Aaron, and I and help us at the national level. And we always need more hands and judges and things of that nature. And I'm sure Chris would be willing to facilitate that.
Good point.
Could you put up my email address when you're done, Aaron, so they can all have it? Or can we do that?
I think Bill can handle that. Yes. Well,
Yeah, so that
Bill,
any questions, they could just email me.
yeah, that's a great idea. And Chris, I also want to let the audience know that you are very actively recruiting more manufacturer participation. You've been to Knowledge Fest at least once that I'm aware of. You were at
I'm going
SEMA
to
with
Knowledge
us.
Fest, then I did SEMA, and I'm going to Knowledge Fest on the 2nd and 3rd. So
And
I'll see
you're
you
quite
there,
literally
Jacob.
going booth to booth, door to door, knocking and saying, hey guys, I'd love to get you involved. What can we do? And so I appreciate you putting that effort into it.
Yeah. I can't do it without you guys.
Team effort.
I need
for
all
sure.
the industry.
Definitely.
Team effort.
It's definitely a
Yeah.
team effort here.
Yeah, because it's not an inexpensive venture. It takes about $20,000 a year to run the contest,
Yeah.
and that's done through donations or out of pocket, and that includes like what it doesn't include what Jacob just did there with those boards. That's a kicker
Yes.
only thing that he did. Kicker donated those, and those I love it. Tell them what I had before, Jacob. I had a pegboard with 8 speakers tie wrapped to it.
Yeah.
That were broken.
So this is a board that we are going to use at the competition to train these students on how to wire up speakers and subwoofers. So the idea is that they're going to take and wire the subwoofers in different combinations of series and parallel to try and achieve like 1 and 2 ohm, 1.3, 2.6 ohm loads, things that are usable with amplifiers in real world situations. Now, what we had before, the last time we were doing this, we had, and just like Chris said, it was literally an old pegboard that was probably 15 years old, and it had a bunch of it had 8 Boss 6.5-inch speakers on it, and the speakers had so many students hook alligator clips up to them and pull alligator clips off, and had bent terminals. Imagine 15 years of people putting connections on and off of these things. Some of the tensile leads were broken off of the terminals. Some of the wires broke loose. So in the middle of the competition, I had to re-solder the wires back to the speakers using their soldering training rigs. And we made do, but after the competition, there's a picture of it.
There it is. That's it.
But after the competition, we were talking and we were like, man, we've got to come up with something better for this, because I mean, you guys see, they're not even all the same size, they're not the same brand, and it was great for what it was for a while, but it was time to go to the next level and upgrade it. So we designed this, and it's made of a much more sturdy material. It's designed to be broken down, and so now it can actually be stood up, and the students can work on it without having to hunch over. And I think it's just going to be a much more durable option for the kids. And plus, they're learning on real subwoofers. That's what we had before.
Yeah, that's the difference about playing it by ear and taking whatever you could do out of pocket and making it work to having manufacturer support. And that's what we need to keep this going, and support from everybody.
Chris, I have to tell you that I've said to many, many people inside Kicker and outside Kicker that it is because of you and your efforts that this particular competition has been continued for so many years. You are literally the heart of the mobile electronics installation competition for SkillsUSA. So we appreciate what you've been doing, and now we're here to help you with things like this and with staff like Jacob and myself to make this thing the whole next level. So thank you very much for all you've been doing.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And like we said, anybody out there listening that wants to help, either get a hold of Aaron and Jacob or myself, and we'll use any help we can get. If it's throwing $5 at us, we'll take it. If it's coming out for a day, we'll take it. If it's buying us a cup of coffee during the competition, we'll take it. So anything you can do.
I want to say, too, that our friend Eric over at Powerbase, he reached out to me after you contacted him, and he said, hey, tell me more about this. I'm curious. And so he and I talked a good hour or so on the phone just before Christmas, actually. And so he has decided to get involved at the local level there in Southern California. And so he's going to be reaching out to you and to David Earhart and seeing how he can get involved. And that's exactly what we need, is we need more manufacturer support, not just at the national level, but at the state level, too.
Absolutely.
So that's going to be a big part of the success.
Yeah, and if anybody's listening with a shop that needs installers, drop me a line and I'll get a hold of my local state directors and see who in that state is looking for work. Because we have,
absolutely.
Yeah, and I've got to say, I got to mention it there in Lexus from last year's
Lexus,
contest.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I
Lexus
remember
already
her.
contacted Erin and
Yes.
they did talk. She talked to your rep, and like you said, we're going to find her something.
Yeah. And actually, Jacob helped another gentleman find a job. Was it in Fort Worth?
In Fort Worth or Dallas, I think. And are you talking about Zane?
Yes.
Came up? Yeah, Zane. So I don't know what he ended up doing after the competition. I think he may have gotten maybe going to college or some sort of further education, but he did come up here, and since he's from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, he drove a couple hours and actually came up and did a tour of the kicker headquarters so that we could show him a little bit more what the industry is about. So he got to see the Bronco, and he got to see the warehouse and research and development, all the cool stuff that we do here at the headquarters. And we're always open to doing tours, especially for people that are trying to break into the industry. I mean, we'll always make time for students and people who are interested. But yeah, it's a great way to build relationships and connections with people that are trying to get into the industry and people already in the industry. I met a few people who were judges at our competition that I didn't know otherwise, but they've become really good friends, like Scott and a couple of the other guys there. So, I mean, it's just a really fun event. It's becoming one of my passions. I really like helping out with it.
So, Chris, any final thoughts before we let you go and we start working on these demos?
No, just in advance, thanks to anybody who can help us. And thank you again, Jacob and Erin, for all your help. And I will be talking to you soon.
Excellent. You're going to be in Vegas at Knowledge Fest, and Jacob's going to be there too.
I'll be there.
Yeah, I'm there. I get in the 2nd, and I leave at 5 in the morning on the 4th. I have a birthday party on the 4th now, so I won't be there for closing day.
That's all right. Closing day is usually pretty slow anyways.
Yeah.
But when you get there, swing by the booth, man, and we'll have a chat. It'll be good to see you.
Okay, will do.
All right, Chris, thank you for being here, sir. I appreciate your passion and Skills USA, and I'll be seeing you soon.
See you soon. Thank you.
See ya.
Well, that was Mr. Chris Jack, National Chair of Mobile Electronics Installation, and we are so appreciative of what Chris has done. And Scott, if you're watching, thank you as well. We want to make sure that you are part of this conversation. And now we're going to switch gears. Why don't you tell the audience what I'm going to do?
Yeah, so what we're going to do, while I get my earbuds out of here, what we're going to end up doing is actually have Erin run through one of the Skills USA displays. So for this year, we've got the speaker wiring display that we've upgraded, but we've also done and built a second display, and we're kind of doing a test run this year. But essentially what it is a display that's designed to teach students how to tune amplifiers properly using common tools and things that we have access to in most shops. So this display, and if we can get the camera on that guy over here, it's similar to this one. It's got the same sort of setup with the same bracketry and the same panels, but it's got completely different hardware on it. So we've got a KMC2 radio that we're going to use as our source unit and play our test tones and test music off of a USB. Then we have our RCA connections right below that. Next to it, we have the CXA 360.4 amplifier, and we're using a 4-channel to teach students how to use fader switches, things like that, but also to teach them how to bridge a subwoofer to the amplifier. So it just teaches them a couple of handy skills that they're going to need. We've got a fuse there, and we've also got this battery that is not really a battery. If you could see the backside of the battery, there's a power cable coming out of it. And what I've done is taken that empty battery shell and I've placed a 30 amp 12 volt power supply inside of it, and I've connected the outputs to the terminals on the top of the battery. So it's essentially a battery. It produces 12 volts when it's plugged in, but it's not heavy and it's easy to transport. And that's the whole idea behind these displays, is that they're going to be broken down. We don't have a lot of storage space, and they need to be lightweight and easy to move around. But then I've got that plug coming out that just goes to the wall. These are some 6x9 enclosures that we purchased from Crutchfield, and we stuck some of our CSC 6x9s in it. And then I'm trying to think if there's anything else. We supply all of the wiring, and and we have a TC-104 subwoofer that Aaron held up a second ago. But it's just, I think it's a really cool display, and it's going to work for what we need it to. But what Aaron's going to do for you guys is he's actually going to run through and set this thing up like the students would be doing at the SkillsUSA competition. So we were...
I need some hearing or eye protection.
Oh yeah, safety glasses.
Safety glasses.
If you guys don't know, at the SkillsUSA competition, you're required to wear safety glasses at all times, or you get points taken off while you're competing. So on, Aaron is going to wear safety glasses just like the students do.
Borrow them from Herkimer.
Yeah. But anyway, we decided to do a little test run earlier and see kind of how long it was going to take, what sort of criteria we wanted to grade the students on, and just kind of, see if it made sense. But Aaron, I think, completed it last time and not very long, and we're going to see how long it takes him to do it this time.
It was under 4 hours.
Yeah, it was technically under 4 hours.
I haven't tuned an amplifier in a while, so I'm a little rusty. So Jacob's got some wires here that are pre-terminated because really the contest is it's time limited, so we don't want to make them do everything, but we need them to understand the basics, the electrical basics and safety. Of course, glass is, and you'll notice I've already taken the fuse out of the radio and the amplifier or the distribution here. So I've done all of that, and now I need my Allen head here so I can remove the battery terminals.
Yep, but we are kind of doing our grading off of safety and sort of best practices and precautions like that. So the first thing that you want to do is verify that your fuses are removed, just in case you accidentally cross wire or something like that with the fuse plugged in. You're not going to blow a fuse or damage any of the equipment. So something that Aaron and I discussed right before the show was we're trying to plan for every contingency, and remembering that these are students, we're going to need to bring pretty much extras of everything, fuses, terminals, things like that. So in case fuses get blown, terminals get damaged, we're going to be able to repair these on the fly as things happen. But again, we're making sure that all of the fuses are disconnected and out so that in case we crosswire something, nothing bad's going to happen. So Aaron, what are you doing right now?
So I have grabbed the pre-loomed section of power wire, and I'm going to connect that as well as the positive from the radio to the positive on the battery.
So the pre-loomed section is going to the positive section of the battery because generally when we do installs, that wire that's under the hood is going to be loomed just like that wire. So that's going to kind of simulate the wire that's connecting directly to the battery underneath the hood. And looks like his next course of action, what you doing there?
So I've got the negative from the ground that's going to run to the chassis ground, and then, the ground, that's not my, I grabbed the wrong wire. I grabbed the wrong one. That one, okay.
Yeah, so I need to do a better job of, I guess, organizing the wires, because these aren't the final versions of the wires that we're going to be using. This was kind of a rough draft for me, but I need to figure out what kind of wire length we want, what colors we want, things like that. And right now, I'm wrong camera. But right now we are literally working out of a pile of wires back here. So, and the RCAs that I used are like 6 meter RCAs or something, 3 meter RCAs. Yeah. We need really 1 meter RCAs because the run isn't that long. But
well, and the funny thing is, this is quite literally the first time these are completely hooked up from start to finish, because you just finished these before you went to Florida.
Yeah, I did. So I went to South Carolina.
Oh yeah, South Carolina, that's right.
South Carolina. But John and I went to South Carolina to work on Scott Martin's like 46, 47, or 44, some 40-some foot boat. Yeah, it's a massive boat, and we were putting an audio system in it, and we did 6 KM65s in the canopy. We did 6 KM12 free air subwoofers, and how many pairs of 3 pairs of KMXL 6.5 inch or KMXL 8-inch speakers. We had 6 amplifiers in that boat, and it absolutely rocks. There was a ton of bass, a ton of power, and I think John wants to talk about that with you guys on another episode of Unmasked.
And some images too.
And he's got a lot of pictures and videos and stuff to show you guys too.
So I've got the radio powered up, and I'm going through the bass, treble, balance, fader, kick EQ, bass boost essentially.
Yeah, all
user EQ.
All your audio adjustments.
Yeah, setting everything flat and turning the volume all the way down. So radio is working. So
yeah.
Yay, step
cool.
1.
So how many of you guys have done installs where you've gone and tuned everything, but your radio is all messed up with the settings, bass cranked all the way up, treble cranked all the way up? Yeah, it's happened to me a couple times, but one of the things that we are going to be kind of grading them on is whether they go into the radio and verify that all of the settings are flat. This particular one, and I'm glad Aaron checked this whenever we got the display put together, but as he was doing the test run earlier, the bass was boosted to +7, the treble was at +2, and something of that nature. Of course, I did get the radios out of warranty, so somebody had done their adjustments and it got saved in the radio menu. So, once we run through them all and get them all tested, that won't be an issue, but we still want to grade them on whether or not they check all of that when they're first doing the install. So what's your next course of action, Aaron?
Okay, I am grounding stuff. I am got my power from my battery, which I don't try to get out of the way. I've got my power from my battery to my fuse, and then I'm going to go from the other side of the fuse, and notice the fuse is not connected.
Because safety reasons.
First. Now, let's be honest, a lot of guys are not putting the fuses in last, and I know this because I'm one of those guys hasn't done that
but
before.
Don't tell the students that.
And one time, in a previous life, I was replacing an amplifier in my Polk Audio demo truck. It was an Alpine amp, and I hooked up the power and ground backwards. Well, fortunately, the amplifier had reverse polarity protection, so I didn't blow up the amplifier, just popped the fuse. But that was a good lesson learned for sure. So now I'm going positive to the positive on the amplifier, and I'm using the blue wire. It doesn't really matter as long as you're consistent using the blue for all your power and your gray for all your ground.
Right.
As long as you are consistent, it's okay.
No, but Aaron, gray wire doesn't conduct positive, right?
Oh, wait a minute, you're right. It only conducts, electrons only flow one direction through gray wires. Yeah, giant diode, right?
That'd be cool if it worked like that, but unfortunately it doesn't.
Okay, so I'm using the set screws, which we need a bag of extra terminal screws because they will invariably get lost.
Lost or
look
stripped.
at that. Hello, hi Mom. Okay, now I'm going to check out my remote turn on.
This is cool.
So I've got power, I've got ground, I've got no fuse in yet, but I've got my remote turn on wire. So, come on, get in there. There we go. That is now tight. Okay, and then I'm going to do the, what do we call it, the yank test? Yank test on all my connections?
Test, exactly. Make sure nothing pops out, everything's tight and good.
Okay, good. Everything's tight there. Okay, now I'm going to put my fuse in.
Watch that spark. Get a close-up of that, Bambro.
Yeah, get a close-up of the spark. You ready? So we're going to go in like this. Here it comes. Sorry, that was a bit much.
Your hand literally covered up the spark.
Oh! Well, I have to use my hand to get it in there.
Yeah, that's true.
Tightening it down. Any loose connection anywhere generates heat, dropping your voltage, starving your amplifier. So all of my connections are snug, but of course if you over tighten, then you also can twist off things you don't want to be twisting off.
And strip threads, strip out the heads of the bolts, things like that. As a kind of a commentary, if you get, you're trying to maintain the same power level, say you're trying to maintain 300 watts and you have 12 volts and a certain amount of current. If your voltage drops, your current has to go up to maintain the same power level, and that's where we end up getting heat when you're running a ton of current through stuff, and heat, as heat increases, resistance also increases, and it can just be a bad time.
Now, here's our 87 feet of RCA cable.
Yeah, that is definitely not necessary.
It's a tripping hazard. So I have connected the RCAs, what would be on the back of the radio, but we have mounted a set of RCA jacks to the front of the panel for simplicity's sake.
Yeah.
So I've got, excuse me, my left and right. I'm using my blue as my right and my gray as my left. And now, super important, when I go over here to the amplifier, I want to plug into amp 1, not amp 2. Now, the reason this is important is we're only using one set of RCA cables, and on this radio, the set is considered a rear output. So I'm going to connect the blue to the red on amp 1 and the gray to the white on amp 1. Make sure they're solid in there. I've seen lots of guys not push these in tight enough, and then they get crackling and popping, and they wonder why the bass keeps cutting out. Well, it's because it's not making a solid connection. So there's my RCA connection. So it looks like everything is good to go. Now I am not going to yet dial in the gains. First I'm going to set the controls. I want to make sure that the gains are all the way down.
I think I did reset those earlier for you.
Did, okay, just for the audience at home. Gains all the way down. Now because we're using a 2 volt RCA preamp, we're going to set the amplifier to low level input. If we were using the radio amplified outputs, we'd be using high level, which goes up to 40 volts. But in the low level, it goes up to, 2.5, or no, 5 volts.
1 to 5 volts.
1 to 5, okay.
Or really like point
Yeah, it's
1 to 5, and
quarter
then
volt, yeah.
1 to 40 for high level.
Okay, so hold on a second, Steve. I'm going to make sure to get this, the low level, so the position out. And then the other important connection here, it's called fader. With the fader on, amp 2 is looking for its own set of RCA inputs. With the fader off, internally, amp 1 feeds its preamp signal to amp 2 internally. So this is a fantastic way to avoid having to use Y adapters. So I'm going to set this to, fader off. So that means, again, amp 2 gets its signal from amp 1. So the subwoofer section, I'm going to bridge 2 channels to the subwoofer. The subwoofer section will get its signal from the single set of RCAs. This is a huge point of interest because in technical support, you guys get a lot of phone calls about the fader switch, right?
Yeah, lots. And people either don't understand how it works or think that it is backwards from the way that it really is.
Right.
And that fader switch is a big point of contention. So actually, I had written a tech brief not too long ago on fader switch operation. So if anybody is confused or unclear on how that works, you can find the tech brief on the Kicker website.
So now I'm setting all the crossovers off or to their highest position. So off, off, high, high, okay. All right, all the preamp is set. Now?
Yep. Now let's see if we blow the fuse.
Okay, ready? We're gonna power it up. 3, 2, 1. Oh, radio woke up.
Radio's on, amps on.
Amps on.
We're good to go.
We're not in protect, that's a good sign. Okay, good, good, good. So now I'm going to use my handy dandy voltage chart.
Which these are also available on the website. But the way that we've set this up is for the students to be able to set the gains on the amplifiers using a multimeter. Now, most of us have access to multimeters in our shops or at home. A lot of us maybe don't have access to oscilloscopes or other more complex tools that we can use to set the gain. So in this case, a multimeter is going to be probably the best way for us to teach them how to do it. But we wanted to outline a procedure that they need to follow and make sure that they do it properly. And so what we've done is, and this power chart is something that we've actually had for a little bit, and it's on our website, but it kind of tells you how much voltage you need the amplifier to be producing to get a certain amount of power. So say you're playing a 50 hertz test tone or a 1000 hertz test tone through that amplifier, and you're measuring the AC voltage output of the amplifier, you'll need, and I'm just spitballing numbers here, but 26 volts AC to reach 300 watts RMS at a 4 ohm load. So we're going to have these students basically use the voltage chart and match the voltage outputs for the required power output of the amplifier. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
So on our USB drive, which we're using as our source, and the USB source is very high quality, we downloaded all these test tones from kicker.com, and we're going to use the minus 5 dB at 1K, 1000 hertz, to set amp 1. And tell us why we're using that, please.
So we're using the 1000 hertz test tone at minus 5 dB because amp 1 is going to be our full range signal. Amp 1 is powering the 6x9s, and we're going to have our crossover set at approximately 80 hertz. We know that crossover is not going to affect us at 1000 hertz, so we're using 1000 hertz to set our power output level of the amplifier. For the subwoofer channel, we're using, for the bridged pair of outputs for the subwoofer, we're using a 50 hertz test tone at minus 5 dB currently. We think we're going to change it to a minus 10 dB tone. But it's the same concept there. Our subwoofer plays in that band of frequencies, and so we're going to use 50 hertz to set the gain there.
Voltage AC on the meter, auto ranging. Got my amp 1 output. And
let's get Bambo's feedback here on
let's talk about the level of the head unit. We know that our radio clips at 40. However, in most cases, the consumer, the installer, is not going to know exactly where the radio clips. Now, you could use an oscilloscope to figure that out, which would be better, but we recommend about 75% of the volume on your source unit. That's about where it's going to clip, and that's probably about as loud as the average guy or girl is going to listen to it. So I'm going to turn this radio all the way up. It goes to 40, and then I'm going to back it down to 30, because that's about 3/4 of the way up there. And that's going to be set as our reference level. Again, everything is set to flat. So now I am going to connect amp 1. And sorry, Stephen, I got to get my gain. Where's my gain?
As he turns that gain knob up, you guys are going to see that voltage go up on the meter with that.
And my target is 16.12 volts. And that is the equivalent of 65 watts at 4 ohms.
Yep, so we're at 8, 9, 10, going up.
16.6, I'm going to back it down just a little bit. There we go. I'm going to call that good.
Yep, that's pretty close. That's good enough for me. 16, I mean, 0.2 of a volt's not a huge difference.
That's easy. So easy to set gains properly. And you talked about minus 5, minus 10 dB and all that, because I wasn't listening to it.
It's basically just what level that track is recorded at. So if you say you use a minus 10 test tone to set your gain, you're going to get more overall output, but you run a little bit of a chance of clipping the outputs at different times. If you use a 0 dB test tone, then you're going to get more like dynamic range with your music, but less overall output at all times, just because that track was recorded a little bit quieter than the minus 10 dB track.
So now I'm going to go to the 50 hertz track. Whoops. Go back. So I'm going to, I think track 1 is 50 hertz, right?
I don't remember.
I think it is. We'll see.
I just kind of put those tracks into the flash drive. I haven't put the sheet together yet as to what track is what. But yeah, if you wait, it'll tell you. It's just painfully slow.
Yeah, 50 hertz, minus 5 dB. So on our voltage chart, this is a 4 ohm subwoofer. We want 150 watts, so I need a voltage reading of 24.49, 24.5 volts. So here we go, 24.5 volts bridged. So let's turn this up. I got nothing. What did I do wrong here? Oh, my fader switch, fader off. See that? I fat fingered it. The fader was off, so there was no signal at amp 2.
Yep.
So now the fader was on, now it's off. So now I'm looking for 24.5 volts. Going. Whoops. The meter's telling me, hey, that's dangerous voltage.
Yeah, I think the threshold is what, 25 when it tries to beep at you? Yeah.
All right, so I'm right at 25. That's perfect. I like a little more oomph. So there we're at 25. All right, so we've got our gains properly set. Now, I am going to adjust the crossover to an approximate starting, who am I talking to?
Bamboo, right behind you.
Sorry, an approximate starting point. Yep. An approximate starting, well, there's no red light, there we are. Okay, an approximate starting point. Shush all of you. Approximate starting point. This is why we don't practice this, right? It's more fun. And I'm going to set my high pass for my 6x9s. Now, some people say, well, it's a 6x9. Why would I set a high pass? Dubstep. If you play some deep rip-roaring bass through a 6x9, it's going to try to play that bass, and it's going to give up ghost. So I'm going to set the high pass right around 80 hertz to start. So let's set high pass on, and then I'm going to go just a little bit below halfway. Now let's see if it changed our voltage at all. Let's see if I can eke a little more voltage. So I am now at 7.98 volts.
Well, remember, you're still playing the 50 hertz test tone.
Thank you.
After you set your crossover.
Thank you. That's very useful information. So I'm going back to the 1 kilohertz. And let's see, I still got 16.65. Okay, so the crossover did not adjust the power at all at 1 kilohertz. So I've still got maximum clean output unclipped. So that's good. Now let's set the low pass on the subwoofer and do the same thing. I'm going to go right around 80 hertz low pass. And let's go back to that 50 hertz track and see if it affected my output voltage at all. And just to remind you, I'm looking for 24.5 volts for the subwoofer. So yeah, you see, with the crossover on, I actually lost a little bit of output. So I'm going to gain it up just a hair now that my crossover's been set.
Now, you could also turn your crossover up just a little bit higher to get more output at 40 hertz, because I wish I had a picture of a crossover thing to show you guys, but really, your crossover is dependent on kind of where you want it as far as listening. Some guys like to put it at 60 hertz, some guys like to put it at 80 hertz. There are several best practices and different ways to do it written online by several different people in the industry. But you know, once you set your gain, I probably wouldn't suggest touching it after you've set your crossover, because remember, everything below, what am I trying to say? You're still making maximum output everywhere below where the crossover is actually affecting it. So if you turn it up higher, you might end up clipping those frequencies. If we wanted to be more accurate about this, we could use a sweep and use an oscilloscope and watch for clipping all throughout the frequency range. But with the way that we're doing this, we're just using the meter at a set point and then using the crossover.
So Jacob, what's going to happen?
Or setting the crossover, excuse me.
What's going to happen when I turn up this bass boost?
Your voltage is probably going to go up, because
let's show them over here.
So our bass boost on our amplifiers boosts around 40 hertz. And where we're playing that test tone is at 50 hertz. So we're going to get a little bit of overlap there, but when he turns the bass boost up, you're going to see the voltage on the meter also go up, because it doesn't just boost 40 hertz, it boosts a range of frequencies around 40 hertz.
See, now this is bass boost is all the way up. I'm now at 33 volts AC, which is about 300 watts.
Yeah, and that's definitely clipped at that point.
So I'm going to back that down.
So I would suggest if you want to add in bass boost to get a little bit more thump at that frequency range, then reset your gain with the bass boost. You know, I never use bass boost in my systems. I don't think it's necessary, and I don't really like to boost just a narrow range of frequencies. But if that's your thing, if that's your what you want to do, then set your bass boost a little bit and then reset your gain so that you're not clipping at 40 hertz.
Great advice. Great advice. Okay, so we've set the gains properly. Now I am going to shut down the radio and connect the speakers.
Yep. That way we don't get any loud screaming test tones coming through or any sort of crackling as he's, you know, messing with the wires and things like that.
So a couple things to think about when you're hooking up the wire. For the subwoofer, we're going to use our beautiful full-spec HyperFlex speaker cable, 12 gauge. That's the good stuff. We're going to use the 12 gauge wire. And because I'm bridging the subwoofer, right on the amplifier it is labeled how to bridge. So there's some nice labeling here. And I'm going to use the gray wire as my negative. So that goes in the right minus for bridging. And then the blue wire is going to go in the left positive for bridging. So that is now snug. Give it the tug test. And then I'm going to hook up my subwoofer, making sure I get the correct polarity. So Jacob, what happens if I wire the polarity wrong on the subwoofer?
Yeah, so let's say you've got your subwoofer wires connected backwards in relation to your full range speaker wires, or maybe you have two subwoofers in the system and you wire one backwards compared to the other. What will happen is those drivers will actually cancel out and you'll get reduced bass response. This was another one of the really common phone calls that I got when I worked in tech support was, hey, I just installed my new Kicker speakers and where's the bass? I thought these speakers were supposed to be better than factory speakers. And I'm like, well, yeah, they are, but did you check the positive and negative or check your polarity when you connected them? And most of the time it was no. So had them go through and fix it, and there's no more cancellation. It fixes the problem and they have their bass response again. So polarity is one of the things that we're going to be grading them on while they're doing this. And they have an hour to do this setup that Aaron has just done in about 20 minutes. They're not, I don't think this year it's actually affecting their grade.
Exhibition.
Yeah, so it's an exhibition thing and we're kind of testing the feasibility for next year and making sure that there isn't anything that we need to change about it or anything that we need to be more specific on. And actually, as we're doing this, I'm having a couple things come to my mind, like we need to tell them at some point, or maybe have a label on there, how much power that amplifier is supposed to make.
Oh, yeah.
Because
birth certificate.
Birth certificate, or even per channel, because working at Kicker, we know the kind of power all of our amplifiers make, and something that I forgot is that everyone else doesn't, and I can't expect students to know how much power our amps make without having something telling them how much power it makes. So that'll be an addition that I make. Maybe I'll add a label to it or something like that. But yeah, just, you know, we're always improving as we do these things.
Okay, I've got my right speaker connected. Let's do my left. There we go.
And then we'll be ready to play some music, you think, huh?
I think we are almost there. What track did we like? Do you remember?
Oh, there was an EDM track that I think it was track 4?
Is it 4? Okay, I'll
4
start
or
with
5.
4.
I mean, we've got a country track, a hip hop track, EDM track. I think it was 4.
Okay, so I'm going to turn it on and immediately turn the volume all the way down, although I already know it's all the way down because I already did that.
He's thinking ahead.
I know that sometimes I think I do things and I don't. Okay, so it is on. There's some power supply noise there. It's because we're using a noisy power supply. Instead of a battery, once again, we're using a power supply. It looks like a battery, and that's where that noise is coming from.
Where's our test tone?
1K. Here we go. I passed.
Yeah, you passed.
It works.
Sounds pretty good. It sounds balanced.
I'm going to check left and right, balance and fader, because this is very real world. Balance right, balance left. I got that right, so I passed. Fade. If I fade front, there should be nothing. Fade rear. What is funny? I'm not saying anything funny. So why
I
are you laughing?
am not going to tell you.
You're not going to. That's great. Woohoo! All right, it works. Good to go. Are there any questions about this, Ernie? Do we have any questions from the audience?
What output is this amp? 5 channels, 700 watts? This is actually a 4-channel, 360 watt amplifier. This is our CXA 360.4. And we're running it off of a 30 amp power supply with the subwoofer channel bridged. So we're making about 65 watts per channel on the stereo side and then 150 watts on the bridged channels for the subwoofer.
So it's 3-channel.
Josh Holden asks, these amps use 24 dB crossovers, right?
No, these are 12 dB. When you step up to the KX, the former KX, or the Warhorse, you go to 24 dB. So these are 12. Good question. Oh, let's talk about the advantage of a higher order crossover. Higher order crossover, 12, 24. The higher order crossover reduces the output of the unwanted frequencies much faster than a lower order crossover, which means you can fine-tune the speaker, high pass, low pass, band pass. You can fine-tune the output with greater precision and get more useful power and, of course, SPL while protecting the speakers. So higher order filters are generally better, with a few exceptions, of course.
Aaron El Fuego says you've got the best dance moves in the industry.
Oh, thank you, El Fuego. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, before I forget, Bobby Burkett.
-10 points.
Bobby, thank you very much for the Christmas card. It was on my desk when I came back from vacation, and I appreciate that Christmas card. Thank you very much, sir.
How do you set the gains for a separate amp setup, like 1 amp for your highs and 1 amp subs, so both amps are balanced? Well, Marcus, there's a couple ways you can do this. So for the first thing I would do is set your gain on your subwoofer amplifier for maximum output, and then install a bass knob. And that is going to ensure that your subwoofer output is always going to be balanced to your mids and highs, however you like it. And then set the gains on your mids and highs as well. That way, if you're listening to some EDM music or some rap, hip hop, you can crank that bass knob all the way up and have all the bass you want. And then when you're listening to rock or something like that, you can turn it down for a more balanced listening experience. So my advice is to set the gains to the max on both amplifiers and then use your bass knob to balance it as you listen to music. The equalizer on the head unit never gets touched before or after the tuning, correct? Yes, for the purposes of this competition, that's correct. Generally, when we're doing an audio system install, we can adjust those settings in the equalizer. If we notice that the audio system after we've installed something is a too bright sound, we can just kind of do a general treble adjustment and turn it down like 2 pips. Sometimes there are other ways to handle that, like dB switches on your crossovers, 0 dB, +3, +6 dB on your crossovers. But if I can do something without having to touch the equalization in the head unit, I will. It's just less for the customer to have to remember, and it's less things that can go wrong, like say your battery dies and all the memory in your head unit gets wiped. Instead of having to remember what adjustments you made, then everything is already done manually on like a crossover or your amplifier or something like that.
Jacob,
Yes.
To boost or cut? That is the question.
Always cut where you can. And I don't like boosting, especially after you've set your gains. If you boost something, make sure it's a very small adjustment, because if you boost it too much, you run the risk of clipping at that frequency where you're not clipping anywhere else. Say you boost 6 dB at 1000 hertz, every 3 decibel increase is a doubling in power output. You're asking your amplifier to double your power output at that frequency. So if we boost 3 dB and then boost another 3 dB for a total of 6, you're asking your amplifier or your head unit to quadruple its power output at that frequency. And if you've already set your gains, you're definitely clipping that frequency. So I don't like to boost. I always cut where I can to try and make things more balanced.
Well said.
So what is the proper way to set crossovers on the head unit first, or leave head unit flat and set amp crossovers only? This is a good question. So if you need a very specific crossover point and your head unit has those crossover points set, like your head unit, I've seen some that have a 60, an 80, a 120, and sometimes you can adjust the slopes. I would use those myself because I know exactly where those crossovers are. On an amplifier like the 360.4, it's a great amplifier, but without an RTA, you're only approximating where that crossover dial is going to be set. So we can say, all right, we want to set this to about 80 hertz, but we don't know that it's actually at 80 hertz, or if it's at 90, 100, or if it's at 60, we can only really guess where it's at. So in that case, I like to use the crossover on the head unit if I can, but also there's some merit in using the crossover on the amplifier, because the crossover is always going to be set where it is with the dial, whereas on a head unit, again, if the battery dies and the memory resets, you lose your crossover settings. So it comes down to personal preference, but there's merit to both ways of doing it.
Excellent questions. Excellent.
Are those 6x9 boxes kicker boxes, and can I find them on the website? These are not kicker enclosures. We purchased the 6x9 enclosures actually from Crutchfield, and they suited what we need them to do for the purposes of this project. But yeah, Crutchfield is going to be your best bet on those enclosures, because that's where we got them from. Hey guys, what is the best type of solder to use for electronics? Unleaded solder, definitely. Other than that, I don't really have a particular preference. I like to use a thicker solder for wire, because you're going to get more solder onto whatever wire you're using more quickly. But if you're doing like surface mount electronics and things like that, I think there's like a whole bunch of different types of solder you can get with different thicknesses that are better suited for different purposes. I just kind of buy solder at Lowe's, and whatever they have works for me. Like all I do most of the time is tin copper wire, and I don't need anything really specific for that. So I just get like whatever I can find usually, but I like the thicker stuff myself. Still 5 cubic feet at 30 hertz for the new 15L7X. Yeah, whatever specs they've called out in the product manual for that, it still hasn't changed. Of course, you can do different things and design different enclosures if you want to. With guys like Drew Jones and these guys that design enclosures, you can do bandpass stuff and sixth order enclosures and things like that. But yeah, our manual specs haven't changed.
I was just pulling it up here on my laptop. 15 there. Oh, that's the Recon. We want that. 15 inch. There we go. Let's see. I don't remember what the specs are actually. I have to be honest. So here we are. Where is it? Recommended vented box volume. That's right, 5 cubic foot.
Yep.
Port. You can see down here the port opening. And a couple shows ago, we did talk about sealed versus ported versus bandpass, even free air. And as you may recall, John, actually you and John did that. What was that green car? God, the gorgeous car. Street Outlaws.
It was a 72, 73. I think it was a 74 Caprice wagon, I think. I don't remember the year, but it was a Caprice wagon, and we did 2 L7X12s in a sealed enclosure for that. And obviously that's not what we recommend in the product manual, but we did it and it sounded great, and it worked for what we needed to do. Yeah. So there's always flexibility on what you can do with subwoofers and subwoofer enclosures.
Do as I say, don't do what I do. Next up.
Well, if any of us have kids, we know that that's true. So.
Shh, mine might be watching.
Is this amp too powerful for the KS component crossovers? The CXA 364, I think, is what you're talking about. No, that's not too powerful at all. The crossovers will handle every bit of that 65 watt RMS power. So I know we've got some other stuff to do tonight. Yeah. I saw some chatter in the chat earlier on in the show about the fish tank amplifier, and they were asking how long it had been underwater.
Yes.
Well, if you guys notice, my little friend, the fish tank amplifier, is missing. It's no longer here. And we've actually got a little video, a little treat for you guys to show you, which I think you're going to have a blast with, because I know I did. But Aaron, if you can get that video pulled up, we'll run it through and I'll narrate kind of what we did. But
okay, let me start from the very beginning.
So I'll give some backstory before we start the video. Okay. So this fish tank amplifier had been underwater for a year straight, and the water never got low enough that the amplifier was uncovered, because I kept topping it off every time it got low. But we'd turn it on and it would be on throughout the show and just kind of sit here and chill. And then one day we forgot to pull the fuse out of the amplifier, and we have a little lithium cell battery down here that we use in conjunction with a power supply to keep that amplifier turned on. Well, Ernie has the studio set up in such a way that you push a button and everything comes on. Everything was off, so the power supply was off, and the amp was just running off of the battery. As you guys know, we have 2 weeks in between each show. So that amplifier was sitting here bouncing off of the low voltage threshold for 2 weeks straight, that nobody had thought to look at it or check on it. So the next show we come out here and we try and turn it on, and it's in protection mode. So we're thinking, you know, what the hey, we'll take the amp out and do like a dissection on it and see what went wrong. Was there any water intrusion in the amplifier after a year of being underwater? Were there any damaged components? And so Steven and I did this video, and Steven filmed me while I did all the shenanigans, and we're gonna play kind of a edited video for you guys here. But we've drained the water out of the fish tank, and I'm taking it out with my toothpick in my mouth that everyone hates.
Hayseed.
Yeah. And so what I'm doing right now is taking the bolts out of the, and pause it right there real quick and get a close up on that. So I'm taking the bolts out of the amplifier that hold it to the plastic backboard, and the amp has kind of grown like some weird slime on the wires and the grommet there. And Steven and I, we were joking that this amplifier was going to be ground zero for the next like pandemic event, and that slime was some toxic stuff that just developed. Yeah. But anyway, I got it out, it's disconnected, and the first thing I did was look at the back, and there's all this like rust leaking out of the screw holes. So my first thought was like, oh man, we got water in there and it's not gonna look good when we take it apart. But you know, we're wanting to be real with you guys, and I thought it'd be a fun video to show you. So we examine it, I disconnect the wires and yank it, and we're gonna start heading to electronic repair and let the guys back there take it apart and see what's going on.
But you stopped off for a break.
Yeah, so I stopped off and dried off the amp, because I don't want year-old fish tank water on their repair bench. So, but there we are walking through the warehouse and going back here, and this is electronic repair, and we're talking to Bill, who is the director of electronic repair, or supervisor, excuse me, of electronic repair back there. And we're gonna see what happened to the amplifier. So what we've got right next to it is the exact same amplifier that is brand new, and we decided to open it up and do a side-by-side comparison of what the guts of that amp look like. So as you guys can see, it's new, it's pristine, and there on the bottom of the amplifier where all the wires come through is there's some sort of like clear see-through epoxy. There's like an inch thick layer of epoxy covering up those wires. So there's no way that water can get in through there. And Ernie has this sped up to like 2,000% as he's pulling the screws out.
Bill, if you're watching, we had to speed it up.
So there's a close-up of that epoxy I was telling you guys about that covers up the wires and prevents water intrusion. So I think I'm pointing at it. I forget what I'm saying. The audio wasn't usable, unfortunately. But once we get all those screws out, Aaron, I want you to pause it when he pulls that cover off. So look at the back side of that cover. Oh, we missed it, but we'll see it in a second.
Okay.
So look at, there's no evidence of water damage inside of that amplifier. We were honestly blown away. There's no evidence of water intrusion whatsoever. That gel or epoxy is still intact there, preventing water from coming in around the wires. The conformal coating on the board did its job. Now, if you guys notice, there is a little bit of oxidation, maybe a little bit of rust on the board hold downs or the board clamps up there. And what we conjectured is that that was done by condensate inside the amplifier. So no water had leaked through the gasket there that Bill's pointing at. No water had leaked through because the backside of the gasket isn't rusty at all. There's no water drip marks inside the amplifier. But those board clamps or board hold downs had gotten a little bit of water on them from condensate. So if you guys think about it, that amplifier gets warm underwater. The inside of the amp gets warm, but the outside of the amp is kept cool by the water. So what happens when you get a surface that has cold air on one side and warm air warm on the other side? You get condensation, and we think that caused the board hold downs to get a tiny bit of rust on them. But we're going to take the daughter board out and look behind that and see what's going on. And there, again, there's a little bit of rust on the board hold downs, but everything else looks perfect inside of that amplifier. It honestly looks pristine. And then we're actually going to go a step further and take the entire motherboard out and look at the back side of the internal, cover of that amplifier. So pause it real quick, Aaron. Under Bill's arm, the arm with the watch on it, you guys can see the back side of that cover that had a bunch of rust on the front. There is no rust, no water drip marks, nothing on the inside of that amp. Go ahead and play it again. So once we get that motherboard out, I want you guys to look and see how pristine the inside of that amplifier is. This was a really fun experiment for us, and it all started out with kind of a dumb idea, and then we made it happen. And I was just, we were all curious to see what the inside of it looked like. We, were wondering if it was waterlogged or what, but here we had a screw that was stuck. We couldn't find the last screw. We finally found it, got it out, and now we're able to get the motherboard out.
Bill's prying on it.
Yeah, I know.
With a crowbar.
He's being super careful. Like, we didn't want to break anything any more than was already broken.
So. Any of you guys watching have been on a tour of Kicker, you've probably met Bill back there.
Yep.
He is a sweet giant.
Yeah, guys, so check this out. We're going to see the back side of the board as well, and it still looks brand new, and there's no evidence of water pooling or drip marks or anything on the inside of the chassis of that amplifier. Really just amazing for being underwater for a year straight. I just find that so hard to believe. But anyways, that's the haps on the fish tank amplifier. I knew a couple of you guys were curious about that, and I thought it was perfect timing that we had that prepared for you guys tonight. But
thanks for walking us through that, Jacob.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Stephen, thanks for being the cameraman on that. That was a fun thing to do. And so the takeaway is the amplifier did not fail due to water.
Right.
It failed because?
Well, because we think it failed because of low voltage. So in one of the previous episodes of Unmasked, Joe Hobart was our guest, and he was explaining that we have the protection circuitry in place to prevent further damage from happening to the amplifier. But every time that amplifier hits the protection circuitry, a little bit of silicone is going to get damaged. And if you have something running on low voltage for a long period of time, just bouncing off that low voltage protection threshold, you're going to run into problems eventually. And I think that's what happened with this amplifier, was we had a component fail. We couldn't really get too in depth with it because the board is conformal coated, but there wasn't, it wasn't because of water damage. It was because of some sort of low voltage issue, and that's what we hypothesized. So, but yeah, I thought it was just amazing that amp was in such good shape inside after being underwater for a year straight. I mean, just blows me away.
So we're going to get another amplifier, put it in the fish tank, and go for another year.
Yeah, we're going to see how long that one goes. And Ernie likes it so much, we want to make it a permanent addition to the show.
So do we have any Q&A this week, or did we already cover that with the amplifier video?
Q&A.
Tech support questions, or anything we need to cover?
Yeah, I mean, we had a couple things, like wiring questions is always something that we get that's really common, and a couple guys were wanting to know, hey, I've got like 3 dual voice coil 4 ohm subwoofers, and I've got an amplifier that's 2 ohm stable. How can I wire these so that my amp is going to work? I don't want to wire it to too low of an impedance because right now I'm going into protection mode. So, well, what he needs to do is wire each subwoofer in series up to 8 ohms and then take them all back in parallel for a 2.6 ohm load. And that'll be just fine for his amplifier.
And that's what we're going to be teaching the students
with
this wall of woofers.
Exactly. So we're going to be talking about all the different combinations you can do, and we'll have a little sheet that actually has different ohm loads that we want them to achieve with a certain amount of subwoofers, and we're just going to mark them off and see if they get those correct or not. But it's a great exercise for them. It's fun to watch them think while they're wiring up the subwoofers.
So we've got some fail picks we want to show. Ernie always seems to find some great stuff, and John Myers too.
That view right there.
So I don't remember where I found this one, but this was the first time that I had ever seen somebody use little strips of a plastic bag to insulate their wires after they twisted them or soldered them or whatever. You can even see their little knots in the strips that they tied to keep them from sliding around, which, I'm glad they went the extra mile, but there are better ways to do this.
And the best part is they were brave enough to take a picture and share it on the internet. So thank you.
I think this was a guy that was pulling a radio out of a car that somebody else had put in, and he found that and just posted it. He was like, what is going on? Have you guys ever seen this?
I'm guessing that Mountain Dew bottle is not full of Mountain Dew. Just saying. So moving on. Here's a beaut.
Yeah, here's another one with wire nuts, it looks like, which, we all know that guy who's an electrician and does car stereo installs and uses wire nuts. And
I've never done this, Jacob. I've never done this. I'm not even sure what we're looking at here. Is that the back of a speaker?
Yeah, so there are zip ties holding the speaker wire onto the wire terminals on the speaker. Which, I guess if you're in a really bad bind, that's something that I guess I've used a hose clamp to connect a positive wire to a battery terminal before, but that's a new one because. Yeah.
Well, and they use electrical tape as heat shrink.
Yeah.
So that is some engineering right there. Here's a great ground wire.
Oh yeah, the classic ground to the trunk lid. At that point, your hydraulic struts have turned into your fuse. So
that's true. That's beautiful.
I don't even see a ring terminal on that. It looks like just bare wire.
Let's see if I can zoom in just a little bit. Oh yeah, that is frayed wire right there. Look at that.
Dude.
Yeah, that's beautiful. All right, and
oh man, dude, is that a light bar up there?
That is the light bar.
Well, that's not the way to do that. But what I want to know is where those wires are going inside the car.
The roof.
Roof?
This right here.
Oh, they just ran screws.
Look at that. Is that a screw or is that a pop rivet? That might be a pop rivet.
Rivet or a spot weld, maybe. I don't even know, man. But
he covered the hole, so it's epoxy.
It's not going to rust now.
So that's some good stuff right there. All right, as always, if we're showing off your handiwork, we're not trying to make fun of you. We're just laughing with you or next to you, but not at you, okay? So yeah, there's the fails. The cool picks just came through. Thank you, Ernie. The challenges, they're in my email, and they're not great to look at, but let's go ahead and show them anyway. This is from SEMA. This is, you going to pull that up, Ernie? Since I'm talking about it? There we go. So this is our demo pickup from SEMA. And that's a Warhorse amplifier. That is a CXA. And how many 15s are in this?
4. There's 4 in a large ported box that the port is directly in between the 2 front seats. The entire back seat area is taken up by the enclosure.
There they are. Solo X 15s.
Yeah, that truck is a real pleasure to listen to. It's just got really deep, smooth bass and sounds fantastic. And we've even got the new KSC 3-way system in that truck.
And Tim Smith was saying, he got to drive it out there to Vegas, and he said this is his favorite to listen to demo truck we've ever built. He said it just sounds great. Staging, imaging, all of it sounds amazing.
And in the bed of the truck, we've actually done and got a whole nother audio system in the bed. As you guys see in the 2 corners of the bed, we've got 2 TB enclosures that are firing up and down. And then we put some of our KM-XL speakers and tower enclosures that kind of sit up in a rack all around the top side of the bed. That audio system in the bed sounds fantastic. That was an addition that we made after SEMA so that our reps can drive this truck around to dealers and show off Kicker product. But there's a little KMC radio in the corner of the bed right there, and the drawer thing that they have back there that you can control the audio system in the bed from. Super, super cool setup.
Nice install. It's a joy to work with guys who really know what they're doing and take pride in their work. Just look at the beautiful details. It's like you look at these trim panels, you don't have to do this. You do it because you want to make it look amazing. Mm-hmm. It certainly adds time and effort. And thanks to our friends at XS for hooking us up with some great power supplies and batteries.
Oh, speaking of which, I want to give a shout out to XS for the empty battery cases for the displays that we built for the amplifier tuning SkillsUSA. The empty batteries are really what ties the whole thing together. It makes it seem realistic for the students, like they're really working with a real battery, and they were super, super easy to work with. The guys even wrote some messages on the underside of the top of the battery for me, and one of them that comes to mind is call the fire department as kind of like a preemptive, if we ever have to take the cap off of it, you're going to open it up and see, hey, call the fire department. But I thought that was pretty funny.
In this image, you can see our award-winning tailgate audio system. This is a factory-installed option on GMC and Chevrolet pickups. So when you fold down that tailgate, that multi-pro tailgate, there's 2 of our Power Sports 4-inch speakers and our PX 50 by 2 amplifier. And then there's the control surface. And here you can plug in an aux or a USB flash drive. So there's a built-in audio system in the tailgate of this truck, and it's been a great project for us, and customers love it.
And the cool wheels that we used.
Thanks to fuel. There's the front of the pickup.
And the wrap on that thing is super cool too. It looks even better in person. It's got these nice wavy, kind of psychedelic looking lines all over it, and it's just a cool looking truck.
And you know what's cool about this truck too is it's not a trailer queen.
Steven says it's a topographical map.
Oh, is it?
Wrap. Oh, do you know what it's a map of by chance? Oh.
I think it's just random.
Okay, cool.
But these trucks are not trailer queens. This is a daily driver. So not only is it beautiful, but it's got to be reliable. And that is really challenging when you're building show quality trucks with audio systems. To be reliable as a daily driver, it just can't fail when you're 3,000 miles from Kicker. So it's a great job, guys. That was built by our team here, Josh and Tim and Chase. I always screw up that name. I apologize, Chase. So that's the cool stuff, and I think we got some events to talk about. January 19th and 20th, we're doing a monster truck event, and that's going to be at the Brookshire Grocery Arena in Louisiana. Monster truck event. I actually attended one of these in Denver a couple of years ago. Oh my God, is that a lot of fun. Monster truck is a lot of fun. So if you're in the area, take the family, bring some earplugs for the little ones because it is loud. Muffler, what is a muffler? They don't have mufflers. It's straight pipes, man. These are big 1,000+ horsepower motors. So
I've always wanted to go see one of those monster truck shows.
it's unreal. Steven's behind the camera. He's excited for that event. You're not working it, are you, Steven? No? He's not. He wishes he was. So yeah, check that out. Then we've also got some stuff come up on our Facebook. Where's my Facebook here? So obviously we got our show tonight. A bunch of Arena Cross events coming up. So if you're into Arena Cross, please go to our Facebook and go to the events tab, and you'll see, look at all these arena events coming up. Those are also a lot of fun. When you mix monster trucks and Arena Cross, oh my gosh, what family fun for an evening. And just a good time, so please check those out. And then, of course, coming up in February, there's a boat show in Miami. We've got the Lone Star Throwdown at the end of February. So there's a lot of cool stuff coming up in February and some in January as well. So check out those events. And let's give some prizes. We've got some things to give away tonight. As you expected, the first place winner goes home with, what do they get? The BF100, the Bullfrog.
Yep, Bullfrog.
You get a
100.
Bullfrog, a UnMasked t-shirt, which you probably can't see because of our display. The UnMasked t-shirt and a couple of koozies. In addition, earbuds. Oh, we're starting that tonight?
No.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Hey, I got them right here.
Well, now you're blocking me, man. Come on.
I had to show the T-shirt. What do you mean?
Whatever. Like they've never seen the T-shirt. So I almost forgot. We're releasing a new product. It's on our website right now. New true wireless earbuds from Kicker. Woohoo!
Yep.
Employee purchase. So exciting. So hey, Ernie, pull up my laptop, please. I've got on our website here the TW2 True Wireless Earbuds, Bluetooth earbuds from Kicker. These, of course, because they're Kicker, first of all, you know they're going to sound fantastic. Because if it doesn't sound good, Steve Irby's not going to sign off on it. So number one, they sound great. Number two, true wireless simply means there's no wires. If you've had AirPods or Galaxy Buds or whatever, you know what true wireless is. You can use one or you can use both. It doesn't matter. One for a phone call, two for music, or vice versa. It just doesn't matter.
Yep.
Fantastic product.
No wires.
In addition, these use ENC, not to be confused with ANC. ENC, Environmental Noise Control. What that means is, when you're on a phone call, these earbuds will suppress all the background noise, so all the other person hears is your voice. Now, earlier we had a conference call, and the guy we were talking to was in the airport, and we could hear the airport more than we could hear the dude we were talking to. These earbuds would fix that problem because they block out all the noise that isn't your voice. So these are fantastic for music as well as making phone calls. So check these out on our website. They're $49. Actually, they're on sale right now, so they're $49.99. That's the sale price. They're 17% off, and those are available now. So check those out. And in the future, you might be able to win some, but I'm not going to say for sure.
Joe Cool says, what's the RMS on the earbuds?
0.001 watts?
Yes, probably something like that. Probably very, very low.
Very small. But you do get 24-hour maximum battery life.
Yep, so the earbuds themselves have about an 8-hour battery life, of course, depending on how you listen to it. And then your battery bank, can recharge them 2 times. So you've got 16 hours of life in your battery bank, and then 8 hours on your headphones themselves. So you get about 24 hours of total listening out of these before you got to plug them into the charger.
So if you fly out of Stillwater and 30 hours later you arrive in Jakarta, Indonesia, you might have to recharge them 1 time.
Yep.
True story. So that is new and exciting. Check those out on our website. Now let's give away some free stuff. So Bill, our 3rd place winner tonight. Who is our 3rd place winner? Number 3, Josh H. from Ohio. Congratulations, Josh. You win third place. That means you're going home with one of our tumblers, our giant tumblers. It's the Kicker 50th anniversary. You get a t-shirt and 2 koozies. Second place winner. Who's the second place winner? Will A from Alabama. Will, congratulations. You're our second place winner. That means you get the EB400 in-ear monitors, the t-shirt, and 2 koozies. First place winner is Todd W. from Pennsylvania. Congratulations. You get the BF100, the Bullfrog 100, which is my personal travel companion.
Excuse me.
Works great in hotels, beaches, bars, anywhere else you might hang out, and you want music.
Yeah.
So those are our 3 winners tonight. We are done. So Andy, real quick, Andy, you're doing an after show tonight. That's what I understand. Andy's doing his after show. So hang out with Andy when we are signing off. And then next Tuesday at 7:30, Andy's doing his show, Kicking It with Andy. Excuse me. That's next Tuesday, 7:30. And of course, you can win stuff with Andy. And Living Loud with Andy on YouTube, on Facebook. Also join Kicker Club on Facebook. I am shocked at how much engagement we get on Kicker Club.
Oh, yeah.
So many great questions.
Well, it's grown so much since Andy started it. I think we're at like 33,000 members or something.
Tons.
It is just humongous, and it keeps getting bigger. And lots of good questions in there, lots of positive interactions.
Yes.
I check that group from time to time and try to chime in where I can, but I like seeing all the stuff that goes on in there. And we really like seeing y'all's cool builds in that Facebook group. We love to show them off on the show. That's the first place we look, is Kicker Club. So if you guys have any stuff that you're proud of, stuff you want to show off, post it up in the group. We'll probably rip it and show it up on the show. So.
Next show is January 23rd. That's Tuesday. It's 2 weeks from today. That'll be our next show. And I don't know what the topic is, but it'll be worth tuning in for it. So we'll see you guys and girls then. Thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun, and we'll be in touch.
Yep. See you guys. Have a good night.